Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I am doing my quarter 1 wrap up for my birthday reading project. So I'm going to be showing you all the books that I read in this quarter since October and talk a little bit about them and what I thought. And at the end, I will pick a winner for the book that I read that I felt was my favorite. And the person who recommended that book to me is going to win a $15 gift card for a book of their choice. So the way that the giveaway is going to work is that if you are in the United States, you can pick between an Amazon $15 credit or a book depository $15 credit. So both are going to be $15. It's just going to depend on if you want something from Amazon, which I can prime to you so it'll get there in 2 days, or if you want something from Book Depository, which has like all the really pretty UK coverage, you'd rather have something from there. That's fine too, because that's free shipping, but it's going to take a lot longer to get to you. And then if you are international, it is going to be Book Depository only because Amazon shipping to international is not free and it's very, very expensive. So you will get a $15 credit to Book Depository if you are an international. Okay, so I have 9 books to talk about now. I was hoping to have 10, but there was one book that I checked out from the library, and that is Coming Home by Rosamund Pilcher, and I just did not have the time to get to that this month. I had some review books pop up and some unexpected things happen, so I wasn't able to get to that this time, but I plan to read that first in January. The first one that I read is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And this was recommended to me by On the Fritz, and I adored this book. This book was so good. It follows a young boy, and in the very beginning of the book, his family is brutally murdered by a madman, and he ends up, as a toddler, making his escape from the house, and he finds himself wandering around a graveyard at night. The man who killed his family could not find him. He wanders into this graveyard, like I said, and he's kind of taken in by the ghosts of the graveyard, and they kind of take care of him and keep him safe because there is this guy who is still looking for him because he realizes that he got out and he is trying to find him, so they kind of try to keep him hidden in the graveyard. It was so cute. I loved it. I actually did listen to this on audiobook, but I did have this physical copy as well, and I liked it so much I'm going to keep the physical copy. But the audiobook is fantastic because Neil Gaiman narrates himself, and he's a wonderful narrator. His voice is divine. But it was very whimsical and magical, and just, I wasn't expecting it to be like that. I didn't really know exactly what this book was about. I just heard that it was good, and I've been wanting to read some Neil Gaiman because he's a very popular author. And yeah, I just loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The next one I read was How Lucky You Are by Kristen Cussick-Lewis, and this one was recommended to me by Sandy B. And this one I checked out from the library on my Kindle, so I did read it on my Kindle, and I really enjoyed this one too, guys. This was another 5 stars for me. This one is an adult contemporary, and it follows a woman who has a bakery, and she has 2 best friends as well who have different types of paths in life, but the 3 of them are best friends from college. And you really see each one of these women go through their own struggles, even though they're in very different types of lifestyles. And you see how they interact with each other, you see how they interact with other people, and just how the decisions that they're making are affecting their lives. And I really, really enjoyed it. I think upon further reflection of it, I might give it a 4 stars, but I'm going to keep it at 5 right now because just when I read it, I was so enjoying it, like a lot. And after the fact, I kind of picked up on some of the cliches that were happening in it, but they didn't bother me at the time that I was reading it, so I'm not going to change my rating. I just had a really, really good reading experience reading that one. The next one I read was The Painter's Daughter by Julie Klassen, and this was recommended to me by Monica Cortero. And guys, another 5 stars. I loved this book so much. This is a Christian fiction book, and it is a historical fiction, so this takes place in the 1800s, and it follows a girl who is the daughter of a painter. She is also a budding artist herself, and she ends up falling for another painter who is under her father, like an apprentice type of thing. However, he is very carefree and just wants to travel the world and not be tied down by anyone or anything. But they do start a relationship, and it's physical. And when he leaves to just go sail off to, I think he goes to Italy or something just to go, and he doesn't even say goodbye to her, she's pregnant. And he didn't know that. So she is stuck, unwed, and pregnant, and not really knowing what to do. And back then, this was a big no-no. This was a big taboo. You were kind of shunned in society for being like that. So one day, this guy's brother shows up to kind of collect him and take him home to his parents' house because he's been gone for a long time and his family wants him back home. And he meets this young girl. His brother is a army general, so he's like a military man, very abrupt, very, doesn't make the best first impression. But he meets this girl and finds out where his brother is and learns of her situation, that she's pregnant and by herself, and that his brother doesn't know about it. He offers to marry her so that she doesn't have to be shunned by society and that she can come and live with him on his family's estate and they can be provided for, basically. She doesn't have to be alone in her journey trying to take care of herself and a baby by herself. Oh, it was so good. There was so much scandal in this book. Like, it surprised me. As I was reading it, I was just like, ooh, like things were happening and left and right and no, you didn't. And it was a historical fiction. They're not usually supposed to be like that, but it almost read like a contemporary. It was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I will definitely pick up more Julie Klassen in the future. And so thank you, Monica, for introducing me to that. Another 5 stars. The next one, guess what, guys? Another 5 stars. I'm telling you, the first 4 books that I read were 5-star reads. After this, we go a little bit lower. But this one, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This was recommended to me by a Bibliophobe 27, and this book blew my mind. It completely blew me away. I already had this on my shelf. I knew I wanted to read it, and then when she gave it to me as a recommendation, I was like, yes, it's on the list. I was so happy when she did that. And this is a World War II historical fiction. It follows 2 sisters who are living in France, and this is in the time when Germany was occupying France. These sisters, how do I explain it? Okay, Vienne is the older one. She is married and has a daughter. She is living by herself right now because her husband has gone off to war. And he actually ends up getting captured, so he's a prisoner of war. She has no idea if she's ever going to see him again. They own a house on a lot of land, and it is noticed by the German soldiers that, there's a nice little comfortable house here, and it's close to the runway where the planes come in. So one of the German soldiers ends up living in her house with her, and it's purely like, I need to be boarded, I need somewhere to stay. This is convenient. This is happening. She didn't have a choice in the matter. So he's living in their house and you're seeing those interactions, which are not very pleasant because she's not really happy about this, obviously. Then you have Isabel, her younger sister, who is extremely impulsive. She makes the most rash decisions. She does not care who she insults with her comments or her gestures. She will say what she thinks and she doesn't care what anyone says about it. She also just really wants to help people. She wants to come up against the Germans and she wants to do things she's not supposed to be doing just to spite them. And she wants to help people kind of survive this and break all the rules. So she gets herself into some situations, as you can imagine. This book took me places I never thought it would. It completely tore my heart out and put it back in all the wrong spots. My heart will never be the same again. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story of a terrible, terrible time in our history. It went places I didn't expect it to go. I was never bored. This is over 500 pages. I was never bored in this book. And I was just falling in love with all of these characters, and seeing things happen to them was so hard and hurtful. And just how dare you do that to my babies? Like, these are my babies now. And oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous book. It really, really is. I will reread this in the future. I know I will. And this has become one of my favorite books of all time. All time. All right, so the next one that I read is Gray by Pete Wentz, and this was recommended to me by Evil Queen Books. And this book is an adult contemporary, and it is written by Pete Wentz of Fall Out Boy, who's the guitarist for that band. That's one of my favorite bands. So I was pretty excited to read this one. And I had known that he wrote a book, and I had it on my radar when it first came out, but I just kind of forgot about it, honestly. So I was excited when she recommended that one to me. And I ended up really enjoying this one, and I was surprised by how good his writing was. But the more I read, the more it made sense because the writing was very lyrical, almost like song lyrics. I could imagine some of the passages being song lyrics, which would make sense because he's a songwriter as well. And it follows a man who is in a band, and he has a very unhealthy relationship with this girl. And it's funny because we never even know her name. We only know her by her, and it's a capitalized her. We never learn what her name is, which is very interesting. And so whenever he's talking about her, it's, you know, capital H her, so we know who he's talking about because he does talk about other women as well. And it's kind of their struggle with their relationship and how unhealthy it is. And he also struggles with some drug addiction and some drinking problems and all that when he's on the road. And it's very sad. It was kind of a sad story. And I'm sure some of the experiences that are in that book are some things that he's experienced as well. And so he was able to really put that into words very easily and have it make sense. But I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read is Of Mess and Moxie, and this is written by Jen Hatmaker, and this one was recommended to me by Christy Boys. And this one I listened to on audio, and it is narrated by Jen. This is a nonfiction Christian women's book, and it's basically just really funny tales of, you know, being a mess, as women and mothers can be. I'm a mess a lot of the time, and of moxie, of standing up for yourself and of, you know, standing up for your beliefs and all that. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. The audiobook was fantastic because, again, Jen read it, and so you got a little bit more detail in that, and that was in her introduction to the book. She was like, you know, I wrote this book, but since I'm the one narrating it, I can add little tidbits here and there. So I'm going to give you a little bit of side stuff, and I'll let you know when that happens. So that was pretty cool. And it made me laugh out loud quite a few times. I was able to relate to a lot of stuff that she talked about, especially motherhood. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, this next one is The God Box by Alex Sanchez, and this is recommended to me by Catchphrase. Okay. This was my lowest rated one. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And I had a lot of feelings on it. I'm going to try to get through them quickly because I am talking about this in another video as well. So I'm going to kind of get all my feelings out between both of them. But this one is a book that follows a young boy who is a Christian. He is a hardcore, like, Bible study, going to church all the time Christian. And he's also struggling with the feelings that he might be gay. And he's trying to fight those. And he doesn't understand what they mean. So here were my issues with it. Okay. My biggest issue was with the writing. I thought the writing was very mediocre. It was very plain, and I don't feel like the high ratings that this book has on Goodreads is because of the writing style. So I don't think that was a thing. I think that the high ratings is because of the topic of this book, because this author had the guts to do this, which is fine. But the writing, honestly, guys, is not good. It's very basic, I guess you could say. The other big issue that I have with this book was that the characters in this book were either we are 100% in favor of homosexuality and we are going to promote it and we are going to help you and it's wonderful and everything's great, or homosexuality is bad, it's terrible, you should be killed because you're homosexual. It was one of these two things. There's no middle road. There was no, well, I don't necessarily agree with it because of the Bible, and I can still love you and not be a judgmental person, because that's not what Christians are supposed to be. We are not supposed to be judgmental. We leave that up to God. That's between them and God. We are not supposed to judge people. That's not our place. And that was never depicted in this book. It was either you're 100% for it or 100% against it. And the against it was so bad, you guys. It was like hate crimes happening. It was people saying, the Bible says you should die if you're a homosexual, so that's what I believe. No, that's not how it is, guys. That's not how it is. Okay. I really tried my hardest not to let my own personal beliefs cloud my judgment here, and I don't think that I did, because I did not agree with that, with the persecution and the bullying that was happening in this book. And that's another thing that I didn't like, is that there was so much bullying and tormenting going on in school, in classrooms. Teachers and principals were witnessing it, and they did nothing and even helped contribute to it. That, I'm sorry, is BS. A teacher would not do that. I don't care what their personal beliefs are. They can't do that. It's illegal to do that. So that really, really bothered me, that the teachers allowed it to happen and they absolutely did nothing to help these kids. That really made me mad. That's very, very unrealistic. But like I said, there was no middle of the road. There was no characters that made it out to be okay to not agree with it, but to still be a loving person and to still help people. And it's almost like that's not possible. Yeah, it is. It is. And that just wasn't depicted here. And I don't feel like that was very fair. And I don't think it's either one way or the other. So those were my issues with this book. And that's why I gave it 2.5 stars. A lot of it was the writing, and a lot of it was where he took the stories and how he depicted these characters. And I just didn't appreciate that. At the same time, you know, the good things about it was that it was a story about love. It was a story about this young boy finding the person who actually showed him his true self, and, you know, their relationship and how it blossomed and everything, and the steps that it took to get there. So that was good. It was a really good, like, progression story, and, you know, him kind of coming into his own. So, but the bad stuff to me really overshadowed that and had the most impact on me personally. So yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough one to critique, because it's such a slippery slope. You know, everyone has their own beliefs, everyone has their own experiences. And so that was a tough one. But my personal rating is going to be a 2.5. I couldn't get past all of the hate that was depicted in here and how it was handled. I just don't think it was right. All right, the next one that I read is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and this was recommended to me by Maria. And I really liked this book, you guys. It took me a little bit longer to get into, I think, than some people. Some people loved it from the beginning. It took me a little bit longer to really get into it and to understand this character, because this is a very character-driven book. This is about Eleanor Oliphant. She had a very hard childhood. She was actually involved in a fire that burned part of her face and her hands. So she's dealing with kind of a physical issue where she, you know, really gets judged based on that, and seeing her interactions with people in general. And she is a very literal person, and a lot of her interactions and some of the things that she would say really made me laugh, because just like, of course she would think that, you know, and she just doesn't have the best social skills, basically. So it took me a little bit to kind of get used to that and really kind of fall in love with her. But eventually I did. And then once I did, I was all in. So I really ended up enjoying it. It just took me a little bit longer. This is a book that I would actually reread, and I think I will. I did listen to the audiobook of this, and it was a good audiobook. I think when I reread it, though, I will do it in physical form. It might help me get a little bit more out of it, especially since it took a little bit longer for me to get into it in the beginning. But yeah, I ended up really liking Eleanor as a character, and seeing her interactions and seeing how a certain friendship kind of helped her in her life. And it was very interesting. I really liked it. And you're really just, you know, this isn't like an action-packed book. It's very character-driven and more of a character study than anything, but I really liked it. And I gave it 4 stars. And the last one that I read is Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore by Matthew Sullivan. And this was recommended to me by Gayleen Piat. And this one was not what I thought it was going to be. I don't know why. For some reason, when I first read the synopsis of this book a while ago, I thought that it was going to be the owner of a bookstore passes away and he leaves like a scavenger hunt for his employees to try to find something like an inheritance. Oh no, that is not what this book is about. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what I thought when I first read the book. It is set in a bookstore. However, someone does die in that bookstore, but it's not the owner. And it is actually kind of a mystery type of book, and it follows one of the store employees who learns something about her family because of this death. And she's trying to piece things together. And there is a little bit of a scavenger hunt type thing. The person who died ended up kind of leaving her little clues here and there, and she was trying to figure them out. That part I didn't fully understand still, but she ends up finding some things out about her childhood and things that she really was kind of blocking out for a specific reason. But all that stuff starts coming back to her. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. I did enjoy the mystery aspect of it and trying to figure out, what actually happened in her childhood. And so that was interesting. But I think there were just too many little rabbit holes that the book was going down, and it just didn't keep me captivated the whole time. And I don't know. I think more of it was it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, so I felt a little bit let down. And I don't know if that's the book's fault or not. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just okay. And this one I listened to the audiobook as well, and the audiobook was good. The narrator was good, but I only ended up giving this one 3 stars. It just wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. Okay, so those are the 9 books that I read for the first quarter of my birthday reading project, and every single one was a different experience, and I really appreciated it. Even, the ones that I didn't enjoy so much, I still appreciated being able to read them and to have my own opinions on them, and, quite a few of them I had already owned, so it was nice to have those read now. And so for the winner of the $15 gift card for a book of their choice is going to be a bibliophobe 27 because she recommended The Nightingale. This was by far my favorite book that I read in this quarter, and it's one of my favorite books of all time now. So thank you so much for the push to read this. I really, really appreciate it. If you would go ahead and send me an email to my email address that I will have in the description, and we will start talking about what book you want for yourself. And congratulations. So thank you guys so much for joining me for this quarter, and for pushing me to read some books that I had never heard of before, and to read some books that I had on my shelf that I just hadn't picked up yet. I really, really had a great experience reading all of them. All right, hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next quarter when I continue this project. Bye, guys.